for having me. I was in a corporate career. I was an executive at Dell Computers, and I had worked my way up that corporate ladder for 13 years and got to this point where I sort of had the extra large cubicle and the dream job that most people would think. And for me, it was just absolutely miserable. And one Wednesday afternoon, I literally got followed into the bathroom by about 5 other people. And they were badgering me with questions. It was like end of quarter, and I did these reports for upper management, and they were asking this and that and whatever. And I was in the stall, in the bathroom, and I was peeing. And someone asked me a really insignificant question, and it was just like, boom, and I just lost it. I literally was like, is this the life that I'm really leading? And so I walked out of that job, got in my brand new car, which I had only had a couple weeks, and crashed down, and my just tears and sweat and everything was pouring out of me. And in that moment, I got this energetic kind of thing that came through me. And I heard this word that wasn't my voice, and it said, walk away. And I was like, no, I can't walk away. Don't you understand? I've worked all these years. I'm making all this money. I've got this house payment. I've got this car payment. I've got all of this. And no way, I'm not walking away. Well, the next couple weeks just became absolutely miserable for me. You know, I tried to go back to that job, and then my computer crashed, and all these things just happened. Weird, wacky, you know, now we call it synchronicity, was happening. And I wrote this all up in my book, 7 Dragons. I even got called by a transcendental meditator that had visioned my my number in his head. And when he was talking to me, and he said, "Are you a meditator?" I'm like, well, sort of, you know. And I had just had this like boom, cold, clairvoyant moment. And then I, you know, just kept getting these messages over and over again of walk away. And finally, after crying in bed one night, my husband comes to me and he's like, "You're not going to lose your cable TV. I do have a job, and you will figure this out." Nutrition clients for years. Like there was always some nutrition client around, and he's like, "Why don't you just, you know, be a nutritionist?" And I thought, well, I guess that's a way to start. I guess so, right? It wasn't like this big, awesome thing, but I was like, okay, I could do that. And that's where it all started. And what I found was when you tell people what to do, they love to resist and react and fight you. And that led me into what we now call Quest, and me really only doing things through opening the question and allowing the question to be the ask, and then the awareness to be the receive of this reality, of this universe. And that's kind of where it all started. Then since then, and I was sharing with you in the pre-call, after I left that job, it changed from nutritionist to like being a more of a high performance coach. And so I did this high performance coaching work, and I did these telesummits, and I made this massive list and had a massive success one year where we made $1.2 million gross sales, right? I had a team of 4 back then. We did some big live events and, you know, the whole shebang. And it was, you know, in some way, like this great personal development experience for me. And then it was just making me exhausted. And after that December, I publicly came out to my entire list and said, I quit, which it was probably the most watched video I think I've ever done. And and then I really started to focus then on, you know, what does it take to just naturally set ourselves up for this creative flow so that we can change lives, and we can do it without it being totally, you know, a force and a fight and a struggle, and so many things were, you know, I now set up systems. You know, from a business perspective, I really learned a lot of lessons because we were doing, you know, everything over and over again. There weren't systems, there wasn't automation, there wasn't any of that. So, you know, it just made me a great, you know, coach, business coach. And I also still do the personal development and, you know, total woo stuff. Absolute no judgment, you know, no like expectations, no expectations. I have no expectations of people. And whenever I would have an expectation or a conclusion or a judgment about someone else, I would quickly go back into my, what I call my real raw me. And I'd be like, you know, is that true? Is that something that they project about themselves that I'm just picking up on? And everywhere where they're projecting that about them, I destroy and uncreate in entirety. And I was just on it, like all the time, you know, and it was everywhere. It was decisions, conclusions, computations, you know, like even algorithms, you know, where we rethink things over and over and over again. Projections about, you know, was I picking up psychically what other people were putting out there? And then I was calling it a judgment. And then it was all the self stuff too, right? It started out in this total reality. And then I went back to myself, you know, where am I judging my body, my age, my face, my, you know, whatever it was, right? Like all this, you know, anything that I would judge about myself, I'd quickly go, is it true? Is this really, really true? Or is it the collective that's telling me that this is true? Mm-hmm. And everywhere where it was just a collective and, oh, my weight is not what it could be by the collective standard, you know, all that, you know, bye-bye, you know, don't let the ass kick you on the door. And that's where it started. And then I was sharing with you at the beginning of the call, from there, I went into this total elimination play. And I went on an elimination diet where I was just eating I was adding in raw proteins, which was very, very fun. And it's been very fun to tell people how I sourced food for a little while. We won't go too much into that, but I went totally raw. And when you do that, like you naturally, there's just things you want, you know, that for me, it was beer or vodka. I was like, there's raw vodka, right? And technically you can, you know, justify it. But, you know, I wasn't doing that at the time because it was like, you know, I just wanted to see what resistance and reaction would come up, what anger and frustration I'd want to avoid, what coping mechanisms I was utilizing by food. So it started there, and then I just explored all of this. Like, you know, it's just like purging, right? It's like, okay, man, I'm fighting like the world today. And it's like, what am I, you know, and I would go back into the question, what am I really fighting here? what am I really frustrated about? And is food going to help this? And sometimes I get, yes. and then I go into, okay, so what's really true here? Which then led to me in the series of what is it that I hunger for? You know, what is it that I'm craving? And it always came down to some level of deeper fulfillment or pleasure. And to get to pleasure, you got to go deep into pain, is what I found. You know, it's really quite a dynamic play that we have in this reality of, you know, and I just made a demand on myself to go there, no matter what. I am finding myself. And, you know, and I also have done it not just with elimination, food and diet. I've also done it with like my whole house. You know, our house was hit by Hurricane Harvey this last summer. So I had to, in some way, take out a lot of the old and start over. And then it also gave me an opportunity to look at everything and say, is this what I love? Does this give me pleasure? Does this give me joy? Does it give me, you know, this bliss that I feel inside? I use the tools of access consciousness, the body processes, and, you know, what we call symphony, where we just follow the energy of our bodies and other bodies. I've needed these tools, you know, certain ways of meditating, you know, to give you the spaciousness to see beyond like this. You know, for me, I had always gone to sadness or depression. In that corporate job, I was dark, so dark. And if it wasn't for these tools that gave me the space to look beyond the collective, look beyond my own conclusions, my own judgments, then, you know, I wouldn't be, you know, happy and enjoy most of the time. And then, you know, I just ride this like beautiful, almost orgasmic life throughout the day, almost every day. And if it's not offering me that bliss or that fun, then I don't choose it. You know, it's really become really simple, although it's been a long process in the making, you know. People will get all this expansiveness from our retreats, and then they'll come back to me a couple weeks and they're like, you know, I had all this spaciousness, but it's gone. I'm like, well, is it really gone, or have you just become that space so it feels, you know, different in your world? And they will often say, oh, it's that, you know, and they realize, wow, I am growing. And then that acknowledgement of growth is huge.
Yeah.
When somebody says, yeah, I'm expanding every single retreat we do. I'm expanding every single session we do. And them acknowledging them is just amazing. And then they also, you know, then grow into the capacities to, you know, expand other people's lives by doing it. And I just can't say enough. And, you know, people surprise me. You know, I like being surprised. You know, I pretty much go into it with no expectation whatsoever, and then I'm delightfully surprised and grateful. Let me put a framework around this.
Okay.
So I'm into kind of ritual, right? I've got my tongue drum here that we're gonna play a little bit. And I really have found that when we integrate practices in our lives on a regular basis, it creates change for us and growth. This has become a practice that I've integrated into my work, into my retreats. And what's developed over the years of doing this practice is what I like to call this energy of awesomeness. And it's almost like people can catch it from me. I have people that have done this work with me, and now they're running this energy called, which I couldn't think of another word, and it just came to me. So it's called awesomeness. And how I do it is I take our wrists and I start, and you guys can do this with me, is circling one wrist over the other. And as you do it, you can start to kind of come into the field. And in this field, you'll start to notice this, it's just started. You might, it's like a thrum. It's like a, it seems circular to me, and it goes up and down the Sushumna in the body. And as we do it, just kind of tap into this and tap into the other people in this call listening, and tap into your inner world. And I'll go ahead and I call this like sound to silence. What I had was just such a noisy, chattery mind. And this drum has a certain hertz frequency of 432 that allows the frequencies of the noisiness in our alpha state to fall into, well, from beta to alpha to theta states. So just close your eyes and I'll play for a little bit and see what you receive from this. And then we'll go into a bit of a voyage. Let's see, it's not very harmonic here though. Go ahead and drop deep into your body, starting this beautiful harmonic within, allowing this energy of awesomeness to move up and down your spine, lubricating it, adding deep liquidity that then expresses out through your legs and your arms and your heart, your jaw, your face, all the way up through the top of your head. And then allowing that energy to lubricate all your joints, giving this awesomeness a minute to really immerse in your body, giving it a minute to find you in this beautiful field of oneness. If you'd like, you can activate your wrists once more time, circling one hand on top of the other. Now imagine yourself walking down a beautiful path. Walking and you see the nature. You experience the wind. You experience some sunlight coming through the trees. And as you walk deeper, 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 deeper down this path, that light starts to open up brighter and brighter and brighter. And as you get to that bright, bright light, you see this big nature-made tree that's shaped in a heart. And there's just enough room for you to step through and walk through that heart. When you get there, you see everything you love. You see your loved ones, the past, the future. And it feels like you're falling in love. Take a minute and fall in love. And when you're here, you're in a field of oneness, a field where you can ask anything of those guides that guide you down your path. Go ahead and ask what you'd like now of your future, of your past, and of the present. What is it that your heart desires? What is it that you're hungry for? And what is it to have and be that now? Go ahead and take your breath into your heart and connect to that energy of having and being it now. In a minute, we'll leave this field with whatever you want to take away. All the conclusions that you have about what you have to have or what you need, would you please destroy and uncreate? And take a deeper breath. And in this field, notice the sensations. In this field, notice the connection. And in this field, allow this frequency of awesomeness to dissolve the lies, the limitations, the judgments, the conclusions, and computations that you have of this reality. It's now time for you to create your own reality. It's now time for you to choose your life. Let go of any reasons, excuses, and justifications to why you cannot choose it now. So take another minute and grab those energies of having, being, receiving, knowing, perceiving. And let it in, let it in, let it in. And when it's time, walk back to that heart-shaped tree. And walk through it. And know that it's always there for you to have and create with. And then start to walk back. Walk back to your body with these other elements and frequencies and energies. Noticing where they are in your body. Anchoring it in again with that little circle on the inside of your wrist and the tingly sensations of this frequency of awesomeness. And when you're ready, notice the gravity beneath your body. Notice the air on your skin. Notice the difference of the sensations within. Take another breath up and down the body. And another one that reaches way out beyond the body. Let that energy go out with this having, being, knowing frequency, and allow it to touch those people that are a part of creating with you, that are part of choosing your life, your new reality with you. And allow little trickles of that energy to go to them now. And know when something light shows up, it's now time to courageously choose that. Take another breath, come back into your body. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. I had been doing this work called energetic synthesis of communion, and they call it ESC. And when this energy started, and it's been a few years, and when it started going, I was like, is this ESC energy that I'm doing? And it was a little bit different. Like, I can run the ESC energy, but this one seems a little more creative for me. And it sort of feels like it's acoustical instead of like a thrum, which it's like more, it's and so I didn't have a name for it, and I thought, we're calling it awesomeness because it just feels awesome, and it can be really quick, right? You don't have to take a lot of time to just go into the field and reconnect to the oneness that we actually are. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I say over and over again, I feel like I need to say it just so that people get this, is, our guidance system is desire and pleasure and joy and ecstasy and ease. Mm-hmm. And the universe like sets us up that way. There are certain people that, want to be actors or ice skaters, and that's their path, and that's fun and joyful for them. but I think that when we choose for us, that is how we know the difference, that pleasure is our guidance system, you know, because being a facilitator and a coach like this brings me like amazing joy. But if my path was to be an ice skater, then, you know, I couldn't do this work. It would be miserable for me. It was like me working at Dell, right? You know, that wasn't my path. I was so, you know, in some way, it was like a path from pain to pleasure. It took me in so much pain that I had to get out of it. And I think those are, it's simple key indicators. Does this feel expansive and joyful and light? And if it doesn't, you run, even if it's, you know, even if you think that it's going to give you something, stop thinking. You know, life is a quest and it's a journey. And, you know, I feel that there's too many people that aren't jumping on any journey, that they just wake up and they do their day, and, you know, there's so much magic in this world. So whether you have a hobby of like gardening, you know, go in and explore it and connect and commune with those flowers or trees or food, right? If you like to cook, connect with your food. You know, it's so simple to do it while you're already in the art of what you love, and it can just open your experience so much. And I think there's just so many people that forget that, you know, there's all this energetic beauty beyond our eyes. And if you just tap into it, you'll gain even more capacity for clairvoyance, for flow, for these flow states that can just be a ride of your life. I mean, I can't, you know, as much as I, you know, wanted money, you know, and the creation of that, and I thought that would give me what I wanted. And, you know, what I really wanted was fulfillment. And I thought it would give me that. And my fulfillment has come in this exploration, this journey, this quest to becoming me. No, you know, don't care if anybody judges me, don't care about judging anybody else. I just want to live this expansive, orgasmic life. And, you know, I hope to help some people do so too along the way. It's that simple. That's a place to start, right? If you like music, you know, maybe it's time to get a tongue drum, right? And, you know, if that moves you, you know, I don't know if you want to play, but, you know, if it moves you, do it. You know.